Skydiving Ghost Part 8. Tide Hunters of the Silent Sea. The lush, vibrating green of the Rootkeeper Grove faded behind us, replaced by a horizon that bled into a shimmering, flat white. We were heading west toward the salt flats, a place where the old world's rising oceans had met the flare's heat and turned into a sprawling, crystalline desert. The air here didn't just carry the scent of salt, it carried the weight of 1,000 drowned cities. This was the territory of the waterkin. As Leo and I descended, the temperature plummeted. The salt flats weren't just white sand, they were a mirror. The ground was a thin layer of mineral-rich water over solid salt, reflecting the bruised purple sky so perfectly that for a moment, I couldn't tell which way was up. "Stay sharp, Leo," I warned. "The waterkin don't have roots and they don't have wings. They exist in the between." Suddenly the still water around us began to bulge. It didn't splash, it flowed upward, defying gravity. A dozen figures rose from the flats. They weren't solid like the Rootkeepers, nor misty like me. They were translucent, their bodies made of swirling high-pressure brine. Their clothes were strands of kelp and hardened coral, and their eyes were the deep, dark blue of a trench. At their center was a woman whose form was as fluid as a waterfall. She didn't walk, she rippled across the surface. Her name was Marina, the current mistress of the Western Reach. "You bring the smell of the forest and the static of the mountain to our silence," Marina said. Her voice didn't come from a throat, it sounded like waves crashing against a cliffside. "The Ariel and the Spark. Why have you come to the Silent Sea?" I stepped forward, the emerald seed from the Rootkeepers glowing in my pocket. "We've come to offer an alliance. The mountain is building a spire that will drain the world. If the sky goes dry and the earth turns to glass, your sea will evaporate into nothing but salt and bone." Marina laughed, a bubbling, cold sound. "The mountain is stone. Stone does not breathe. Stone does not move. We are the tide jacks. When the world gets too hot, we retreat to the depths. When the world gets too cold, we freeze and wait. We have survived the flare. We will survive your sister." "You won't," Leo snapped, his blue eyes flashing. "She isn't just heating the world. She's polarizing it. I was in her machines, Marina. I felt what she was doing. She's pulling the ions out of the water to create a vacuum. She doesn't want to dry you up, she wants to turn your entire people into a conductive gel for her global grid." The fluid forms of the waterkin rippled in unease. One of them, a massive warrior whose arms were shaped like jagged ice harpoons, stepped forward. "The Spark Boy speaks of science we do not care for. We care for the flow. Show us why the tide should turn toward the mountain." Marina raised a hand of liquid crystal. "A challenge then? If you are the storm you claim to be, prove you can move the unmoving." She pointed toward a massive derelict, a rusted, half-buried cargo ship from the old world, weighing thousands of tons, stuck deep in the salt crust miles from any actual ocean. "That ship is a tether. It anchors the stagnant air. If you can lift it, if you can bring the flow back to this dead place, we will consider your war." It was an impossible task for a man or even a ghost. But Leo and I looked at each other. We remembered the thunderstorm. "Leo, give me everything you've got, but don't discharge," I whispered. "I need the heat, not the bolt." I began to circle the ship. I didn't just move the air, I whipped it into a frenzy. I created a low-pressure vacuum directly above the rusted hull. Beside me, Leo began to glow, his internal temperature skyrocketing. He wasn't throwing lightning, he was acting as a heating element. The thin layer of water on the salt flats began to boil. Steam hissed upward, trapped within my swirling cyclone. The physics were simple but brutal. The heat from Leo expanded the air, and my rotation created a massive lift. The Silent Sea wasn't silent anymore, it was screaming. The vacuum became so intense that the salt crust beneath the ship began to crack. With a groan of tortured metal that echoed across the flats, the 1,000-ton ship didn't just move, it rose. We hovered there for a heartbeat, a ghost and a spark holding a mountain of rust in the air, fueled by pure friction and steam. Then I gently set it back down, miles from its original grave. The waterkin stood frozen. Marina stepped toward us, her liquid form shimmering with a new respect. "You brought the deep currents to the desert," she whispered. She reached out a watery hand and touched the air near me. I felt a surge of cool, refreshing moisture. "The mountain thinks it is a dam. It thinks it can hold back the change. But a dam only exists until the water decides it has had enough." She turned to her people. "Prepare the deep walkers. We will not march on the land. We will move through the aquifers. We will find the mountain's roots from below. When the sky falls, the sea will rise to meet it." She looked at me, her eyes like a stormy horizon. You have the wood and the wave jacks. But the fireborn of the Cinder Peaks do not value life or flow. They value consumption. To win them, you will have to offer them something more than a world to save. You will have to offer them a world to burn. I nodded, feeling the emerald seed in my pocket grow cold against the new salty spray in the air. Then we'll head for the volcanoes. Let's hope we don't get scorched before we can talk.